Hello! I'm going to review Weston Super Mare Open 2022. Talking about the venue, records that were broken, and my own results and experiences. So honestly, it was an amazing competition, not just for me, but for everyone I have spoken to about it. So I tried to keep this video in chronological order, mostly, but when I'm talking about events, I tend to talk about all of the different rounds all at once. So yeah, let's talk about it. On the Friday, I got a lift from Duke, and we picked up Patrick on the way to the competition. The drive ended up being 10 hours in total due to traffic, although it was originally supposed to be just 7 hours. When we pulled into Weston Super Mare, we saw the venue straight away. It was like an epic, massive building off the end of the pier. It was obviously the venue. So we arrived just before sunset, put our things in the hotel, and went to look at the sunset. Somehow our hotel ended up being a premier room, despite us only asking for a regular room. So it was actually a really nice room, but we weren't that happy about it because we planned to have 2 separate beds, and they couldn't put a spare bed into our room. But Duke slept on the floor. He insisted on sleeping on the floor, so it was okay for me. In the morning, we took a short walk along the seafront, and we got to the venue in time for pyraminx. So I spent a week practicing pyraminx. During that time, I learned Nutella, one flip, and Vedal Order, which are advanced top first pyraminx methods. And I used keyhole before, which is also a top first pyraminx method, so it's kind of the natural progression. But after that week of practicing and learning the cases and all that, I didn't practice at all, so during my actual solves, my recognition time was quite bad, and my execution was also very slow of the different algorithms that I just learned. So I didn't get any PBs. Next up was square one. I didn't even make average cutoff, actually, because I hadn't practiced. This is my first time not making the average cutoff for square one since literally 2014. On to some better rounds though for me. 4x4, I beat my PR average and single by a second, both of them, in the first round. Yeah, at Wakefield, the previous comp that I went to, I also beat my PR average and single by about a second. So the second round of 4x4 happened after lunch, and I cut off another second from my average PR. But my single PR, I cut off 3 seconds. So now my single PR is 51.9. I didn't make it into the third round. I'm sure if I did make it into the third round, I would have cut off another second from my PR. So, if you've been following my channel, you might have noticed that I posted a tutorial for a no-flip clock method a few weeks back. I put some pressure on myself to show that the method is viable by using it in a comp. While I do use this method at home, I usually take a bit too long to memorize the back face. I don't see this as a flaw of the method, as I find my version of no flip easier to memorize than the original no flip. It's more that I'm just not very good at the method yet and I need more practice. So for 3 of my 5 solves, I couldn't memo in time and I needed to use the regular flipping method for the clock. And for the 2 solves where I could memo in time, I wanted to double check that I got the back face right because I was doubting myself. So I ended up flipping to check, even on the solves where I did memorize. So a group of people went to Nando's for lunch on Saturday, but I decided to go to a random cafe instead because I wasn't really in the mood for chicken. It turned out to be a cafe that had only just opened. There was nice decorations everywhere. It was like a fairy themed cafe. When I walked in, I thought it was going to be a regular cafe, so I was totally surprised and just really nice to be finding myself in a totally random nice place like that. So, although I did sign up for blind, I didn't practice it, so I decided not to compete.
Thank you everybody for staying quiet during 3x3 blindfolded.
2x2 was pretty crazy for me. My method for 2x2 is first layer, then CMLL. CMLL algs do work to solve the 2x2 last layer, but aren't always as optimal as CLL. So my first solve had a CMLL alg which used D moves, so absolutely trash for 2x2. There's some of the moves.
Do we want to talk about that alg, or should we just pretend it didn't happen? Because I'm honestly, it happened.
But my judge, Bertie, kind of showed me after my solve a better way of executing it. Then in my next solve, I had a one move layer with that exact last layer that he had just shown me the good alg for. So I was able to get a good time thanks to the alg he just showed me. Or at least that's what I thought. But I realized later on that he showed me the mirror of the alg that I got in the first solve. And somehow I didn't notice that the algorithm he was showing me was the normal alg I used for the case that he was showing me. That alg was Sexy Sledge Soon, by the way. So at least now I know for the mirror of that case, I can just use the inverse of Sexy Sledge Soon. I also got a last layer skip on one of my solves. That felt awesome. I got my PR single. And at the awards ceremony, I found out that the winning average was faster than that single. So George Sholey got a sub 2 second average, which won him the competition. I cannot imagine the TPS, considering that like my 5 move or whatever solve was over 2 seconds. For 6x6, I literally just didn't register to solve it. It's the only WCA puzzle that I don't own. However, I did scramble for it, as well as some other events. And while I was scrambling for the second group of 6x6, I sat next to Ellie J, and someone was joking about him having the national record, and that's how I discovered he did get the national record, UK national record single, of sub 1 minute 30 for 6x6 when he competed in the first group. And he didn't even make a big deal out of it, because apparently he hasn't competed in quite a while and he's practiced a lot at home, so these are just like normal times for him now. Kieran Vian also got the Irish national record average in the first round of 6x6, with an average of 1 minute 23.16. That's an improvement of 0.01 seconds over his previous PR average, which was the European record at the time. Next we have the finals for blind. Of course, there was some absolutely awesome times, but no national records or anything notable in that sense. I want to give a shout out to Adam Robson, who didn't make it into the finals due to failing his attempts in the first round. He doesn't have a single 3 blind success on his WCA profile, but he has had 3 multi-successes in his official career, with 2 out of 3s and 1 3 out of 4. I'm sure he's also had like a 1 out of 3 DNF or something, so yeah, he's solved quite a few 3x3s blindfolded, but just never had a 3 blind success. I spoke to him at the comp, and he is genuinely trying to get a 3 blind success, which makes it even funnier. So better luck next time. And the final event of the first day, Saturday, was multi-blind. By this point, most people who weren't competing anymore had left the venue, leaving only the most masochistic cubers behind. The comp was running very close to on schedule, honestly, thanks to everyone helping with judging and running. I helped scramble the cubes for multi-blind, and I remember thinking I mis-scrambled the 17th cube, because it had so many edges solved I thought it had to be a mis-scramble, but it was scrambled correctly, just a very lucky scramble for the 3 people who attempted enough cubes to be able to have the lucky scramble. The highest number of cubes attempted was 25 by Mengfei Shen, who solved 23 correctly, winning her first place. In second and third place, we have Charlie Harrison and Oliver Wheat. They got the same number of points, but Charlie won on time, finishing less than a minute before Oliver. Oliver's third place was very impressive though, as he solved all 11 of his cubes successfully. This is made even more impressive, considering that he apparently dropped one of his cubes during execution, so when he picked it up again he didn't know which orientation it was in. But he got it right. Sadly, the crowd can't really go wild during blind events, but everyone thought it was awesome. So we went to sleep at a reasonable time that night, which was good because we had a long day on Sunday. In the morning, I took a walk on the actual beach. I wanted to dip my feet in the water, but I didn't have a towel and I didn't want to have sandy feet all day. But it was still nice to stand next to the sea and take a look at it. On Sunday, I spent most of the time that I wasn't solving at the scrambling stations, helping with scrambling the cubes. Scrambling, as well as judging and running at competitions, is a great way to meet other cubers and help the competition run smoothly, and everyone will like you a lot if you help with running and judging. So, my 3x3 average PR has stood since 2016. At the time, I averaged 14 seconds, and somehow pulled off a sub-13 average in the first round of the Irish Championships. Since then, my average has fluctuated, but mostly upwards. It's rarely been below 14 seconds, so I didn't expect to beat that average for a long time. My average is still above 13 seconds, but I did beat my PR average with a 12.28 average. So that was really awesome. The remaining rounds of 3x3 went kind of badly for me though. I got distracted by competitors around me. They weren't doing anything wrong, I was just kind of struggling to focus. Anyway, I hadn't been practicing 3x3 anywhere near as much as one-handed, which was the second event of the day. One-handed has been my main event for a while now, but I'm still struggling to really break the sub-20 barrier. My goal was to get a sub-20 average. So in the first round, I beat my PR single, taking it down to 16.12. And for average, I saw my score sheet and I wasn't sure if it was sub-20. I didn't take a picture of it or calculate or anything. My judge thought that it was sub-20, but I wasn't sure. So I waited for the results to go up on WCA Live, and my average was 19.99. So, you know, that's technically sub-20. I got my wish. Yeah. Pretty funny, but I beat it again in the finals, taking it down to 19.90. So I'm pretty happy with how I did in one-handed. I got my goal, basically. But my results in one-handed are not the most interesting or awesome results from the competition. You may have heard, but Patrick Ponce got the world record for one-handed in the finals with an average of 8.70. He was so excited, and honestly, a world record has got to be the highlight of the competition for me and like everyone there. Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. Faster than my two-handed single PB at home. I also want to mention that the national record for one-handed was broken by Joseph Briggs, aka Shadow Slice. I only got footage of him practicing, but yeah, his achievement kind of felt overshadowed by the world record, so I thought it should get some more attention that it deserves. Yeah. So, the average cut-off for 5x5 was more lenient than at other competitions, at only 3 minutes. Most competitions in the UK, the cut-off is 2 minutes 30 or so. So that means you have to get a time of 3 minutes or better in your first 2 solves to be able to finish your average of 5. These restrictions basically exist to keep the competition going smoothly, and they're more strict for puzzles which take longer to solve. So, although I don't love big cubes, I decided to get myself an official average. In the end, all of my solves, all 5 of them, were under 3 minutes. My average was sub 2 minutes 30, and my best single was 2 minutes and 2 seconds. So next time I hope I can get a sub 2 minute single. Although I didn't make it into the finals with those times. And I also didn't record myself doing 5x5 because the solves take so long, and I wasn't expecting any good results. Ellie J, who got the 6x6 average national record on Saturday, got himself another national record average in 5x5 on the Sunday. It wasn't enough to podium though, because he was beaten by Kieran, Sebastian and Patrick, who all have nationalities outside the UK. So lunchtime. We discovered there was a fish and chip shop in the lower half of the competition venue, so on Sunday we went there for lunch. On the way back I also discovered an arcade with a DDR machine. That's Dance Dance Revolution, by the way. I convinced Callum Hale's Jep to come with me after his group of 7x7, and we had a nice little break from cubing. Although we looked kind of goofy. Definitely. And the final thing I have not yet mentioned is 7x7 finals. I didn't enter 7x7 because I don't like big cubes. So yeah. Kieran Bean won 7x7 finals. Not only that, but he got the European record for 7x7 with a sub 2-minute average, which is crazy. I know people say like this all the time, and I know I mentioned it when talking about Patrick Ponce's world record earlier, but his 7x7 average was faster than my 5x5 single. So, the awards ceremony happened, and we wanted to get back on the road as soon as we could, because it was a super long weekend and Duke had a long way to drive. But we hadn't had an ice cream, which we wanted to do, so we got an ice cream and went home. So, thank you to the WCA, UKCA, AJ, Bertie, Chris Wright, Matt, Chris Morris, Mollers, Nevins, and Spendler for organising, delegating, and making the competition possible. Thanks to the Grand Peer at Weston Super Mare for having us at the venue. Thanks to everyone who judged, ran, and helped out, including and especially parents who came. And thanks to everyone who attended and by doing so supported UK competitions. If you do live in the UK, there are more and more competitions being held every couple of weeks at the minute, so take a look on the WCA website and sign yourself up if you're interested. At the minute, Wakefield Spring 2022 is coming up. It's going to be held near the north of the country and still has plenty of spaces, so if you want to go to a competition, I definitely recommend it. And you can see my previous video about the Wakefield Open that was held in the same venue to see what it might be like. So yeah, thank you for watching. Bye!